Very good. Okay. I'm going to start us with our sponsors. A year of learning, Dr. Paul Koningsberg, in memory of his brother, Dr. Sam Koningsberg, Shimon Reuven ben Leibish, and Ed Goldberg's cousin, Nisan Hara Nisan ben Fardosa. Paula and Bob Romberg, in memory of their dear friend Julian Smith, Yehuda ben Yisrael. Malcolm Mann, Allah Shalom, in memory of her family murdered in the Holocaust. Harav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bat Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch. Ephraim ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch. Adia bas Harav Tzvi Hirsch. Miriam bas Harav Tzvi Hirsch. Pesel bas Harav Tzvi Hirsch. Shalom ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch. Shlomo Yaakov ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch. Shmuel ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch. Many friends of Dr. Marvin Blush, Moshe Shalom ben Yitzchak Halevi. Friends of Toby Peres, Sarah Tova bat Yisrael Dov. Friends of Malka Levi, Malka bat Yosef. Friends of Avi Gitler, Avram Meir ben Shimon. Cheryl Sher, her children and grandchildren, in memory of her uncle, founding member of BRS, Dr. Israel Brook, Yisrael ben Arav Akiva. Marcia Federbush and family, in memory of her husband, Dr. Uriel Paul Federbush, Uriel Pinchas ben Arav Shimon. Friends of Joe Wolf, Yosef ben Chaim. Sharon and Fred Lisker, their family and many friends, in memory of her dear mom, Harriet Friedman, Edelbas Yaakov. Have a Month of Learning by Jill and Perry Meltzer, in memory of her father, Yaakov ben Yosef. By B. Pizer, in memory of her mother, Razel bat Shammai, and her stepfather, Avram Michal ben Shmuel Halevi. By Josh and Carol Sanborn, in memory of his mother, Chiena bas Aryeh Leib, and his father, Shmuel Aryeh ben Baruch. By Mel and Haran Haller, in memory of his mother, Fega bas Yaakov. By Andrea and David Dolmy, in memory of her mother, Edel Tzina bas Shimshon. And by the friends of Bella Silverstein, in memory of Bela bas Yaakov. We have a week of learning by Minnie Shavrik, in memory of her husband, Yeshayahu ben Nehemiah Mordechai, and by Marcus and Arlene Lahashalom Taylorman, in memory of his mother-in-law, Estelle bas Nachum, and his father-in-law, Tuvia ben Yosef. We have today as the 10th, a day of learning by Corinne Greenwald, in memory of her father, Mordechai ben Yechiel Meir, and by Henry and Bonnie Stamen, in memory of his father, Tzvi ben Chaim. And Shamas have an Aliyah, Krenker Rafiv, Shir Shema Tzliah, and L'chol B'nai Yisrael, a good Geben Shtiar.
Amen.
Amen.
Right. So this great grandson, that's the one that you and the Marvin and Shirley, that you share with the Jeremiases?
That's correct.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Okay, so double simchas to each. Okay, we are on Kaf Yud, Amud Aleph. We said we know that we're one daf ahead, and we're going to continue, and then Shabbos, everybody can take a day off, right? Okay, we have to start thinking about the siyum for Pesachim. I mentioned to Rabbi Yasker my willingness to put off from Monday to Thursday, so it could also be a siyum for Bechoros. He said he was going to try to learn something on his own. Okay, so unless he tells me otherwise, we'll see what we can do, and we'll let the other guys know as well. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. The top of Kaf Yud Amud Aleph, we're going to get into a number of, we talked about Heseba, we talked about measurements, things like that, okay? And how each cup, right? We finished up with Arba Ksei Takinu Rabbanan, says Ravina, Derech Cherut, for the idea of freedom, Kol Chad V'Chad Mitzvah B'Afei Nafshai, who each is its own mitzvah. Okay, then we got into this whole discussion about pairs, and not drinking in pairs and not doing other activities within even numbers because of the superstition that's involved. And that is what a lot of today's Gemara is going to deal with, is this issue of superstition with regards to the shadim, mazikin, things like that, okay? So it's more agadita, okay, than straight halacha. But in any case, why should one not have their relations? We said, nimlachu, the person might reconsider. Amar bai hachi kamar, this is what it means. Lo yachal trei v'yishtet trei v'lo yaseh tzarchav afilu pam achat dilma chalish umitra. Okay, that's where we ended. Abai is saying that one should not eat items in pairs, drink in pairs, have relations one right after the other immediately. Why? Because it could make somebody weak, and as a result, it could harm himself. Okay, now, Tanu Rabbanan, a new Braita tells us, Shotek keflayim, if one drinks a pair of drinks, Damo barosho, his blood is on his head. In other words, he's taking his life in his own hands. Amar Rav Yehuda Eimatai, at what point? Bisman shelo ra'ah pnei hashuk, he says, at a time that one doesn't go out in between drinks to get up and walk around, to go out to the marketplace, things like that. Aval ra'ah pnei hashuk, but if he goes out to the marketplace, in other words, gets up, walks around, takes some time, harishut biyado, then the permission is given him to drink more than one drink after another. Amar Rav Ashi, says Rav Ashi, Chazina le Rav Chanina bar Beni Bibi. I happened to see, he said, that Rav Chanina bar Bibi, the achal kasa, right, that he consumed the cup, hava nafik, right, he would leave, v'chazi ape shuka, and he would go out and look to the marketplace. V'lo amran, ela letzeit lederech, okay? But this implies that he had to really go out, like he was starting a journey. Aval beveito lo, but in his house, that wasn't enough. Another statement, Amar Rabbi Zera, Vilishan kiletzeit lederech dami, that if one goes to sleep between the drinks, that's the same as going out on a journey. In other words, there's a break in between. Next statement, Amar Rav Papa, says Rav Papa, uletzeit lebeit hakisei, kiletzeit lederech dami. Okay, that to go to the restroom, okay, is like going out on a journey. Ubebeito lo, asks the Gemara, and in his house, no, that's not sufficient. Vaharava mane kashure. But what about the fact, it says, the Gemara, that Rava would get up and he would count the number of beams in his house in order to help him keep track how many drinks he's had. And so he got out of his seat, walked around inside his house. Isn't that sufficient? Va'abai, and as far as Abai, kishate chad kasa, when he would drink one cup, mankit le ime tre kase betre yade. His mother, remember he had a nurse, a woman that took care of him since his mother died when he was young. Okay, she would place 2 cups in his 2 hands. V'Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, and as far as Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, ki have shate tre kase, when he used to drink 2 cups, mankit le shame chad kasa, his servant would place 1 cup. So the Gemara says, chad kasa mankit le, 1 cup he would place and give to him. Tre kase betre yade. Implication being 2 cups in his 2 hands. In other words, 1 cup in each hand. Right. Now, why is this important? Adam chashuv shani. says the Gemara. An important person, a sage, or somebody who's important, that's who the mazikin would tend to be more drawn to and attack. So that's the answer the Gemara says. Okay, going on. Amar Ula, says Ula the following. Asara kosot ein bahem shum zugot. If one were to drink 10 cups, an even number, then one still wouldn't have to worry about the concern about the superstition of mazikin attacking him. Ula letame, and Ula, according to his reasoning, da'amar Ula, because he said, va'amre la b'matnitin tana, and others say this was what was taught in a braita. Asara kosot tiknu chachamim b'beit ha'evel, that the sages established that 10 cups of liquor, okay, should be drunk, okay, in the house of mourning. Okay? The implication was, remember back in the time of Chazal, the same way we had 7 wedding blessings and one theoretically, okay, so they had funeral blessings in the funeral home that they did when they came back from the cemetery, and perhaps they had a drink with each one of those blessings. That gave 7, and then other drinking as well to help deal with the sense of loss. Okay? And the Gemara then says, V'isal kadatach asara kasot yesh bahen mishum zugot. And if we want to think that 10, the even number of 10 cups, one would still be concerned about zugot, about pairs and superstition and the mazikin. Hechi kaime rabbanan. How is it possible that the rabbis would have established v'tiknu milta the ati lidei sakana, and established there have something that would lead to perhaps harm, okay, danger. So the Gemara then continues. Aval timnaya yesh bahen rishum zugot. But 8, okay, pair of 8 drinks, there is a concern about pairs, superstition and maziki. Gemara picks up and responds. Rav Chisda v'Rava bar Huna, the two of them, the Amrei Travaihu, they both said the following in regards to Birkat Kohanim. Okay, we have certain words, and those words, okay, if they were associated with drinking, okay, Kiddush Club maybe, who knows, okay, they are significant. Shalom, Latova mitztaref, L'ra'ah lo mitztaref, right? Right? So that's one example. Aval shita, but with regards to 6, yesh bahen mishum zugot. Maybe the number 6 does deal with pairs that are speculation for magic and superstition and witchcraft and things like that. So the Gemara responds, Rava v'Rav Yosef da Amrei Travaihu, that the two of them said, Vichoneka, again part of Birkat Kohanim, L'tova mitztaref, L'ra'ah lo mitztaref. Again, that's the 6th, right? So again, it's Aval arba'ah yesh bahen mishum zugot, but maybe pairs of 4, right? 2 pairs, 2 pairs. Abai v'Rava, the Amrei Travaihu. The two of them responded, V'yishmerecha, again, citing the example, L'tova mitztaref, L'ra'ah lo mitztaref. For benefit, yes, it joins, but for detriment, it does not join. Va'azda Rava the Tame. And so the Gemara continues now with a maaseh, an incident, a story. And Rava followed his own reasoning. The Rava afkinhu l'Rabbanan ba'arba'a kosot. That Rava allowed his students, right, to leave after 4 drinks. Okay, Afal Gav de Itzak Rava Bar Levi. Okay, even though a danger, a wound occurred to Rava Bar Levi. In other words, after 4 drinks, something bad happened to him. But Rava's reasoning was as follows: Lo chashla lamilta, okay, that the thing did not occur to him. The amar hahu, okay, mishum de itvan bepir kahav, that it didn't happen because he was hurt because of the fact that he had had 4 drinks, but rather because he had contradicted Rava in a public discourse. And practice is that a student does not ask a question to sort of stump their teacher in a public discourse. They may go to the teacher privately and ask the shaila, but not to do so publicly. Amar Rav Yosef, says Rav Yosef. Now continuing with another story, okay, that the certain rabbis were able to talk either with shadim directly, with various demons, or this individual that we're going to mention was another sage who was able to control and direct the demons. Okay, so Amar Rav Yosef, he says, Amar li Yosef Sheda, Yosef the demons told me the following: Ashmadai Malka de Shede Memunehu al Kulhu Zuge, that Ashmadai, who is the king of the demons, is appointed over all of the arrangements of pairs. Umalka lo ikre mazik. Okay, and as a king, he does not necessarily have to cause damage. Okay? In other words, he can decide who to cause discomfort to or who not. Ika da amre la lahaigisa. There are those who said it according to this view. Ad rabba, okay, on the opposite. Malka ratachnahu, that he is an angry king, and as a result, okay, he can pick whoever he wants, clearly. Mai debai avid shahamelech poretz gader la'asot lo derech ve'ein mochin biyado. Namely, why do we say this? Because the king can act and break through any sort of fences or borders in order to allow himself a place to go. Ve'ein mochin biyado, and we don't stop him. The king has eminent domain and therefore can do what he wants. Now, Amar Rav Papa, says Rav Papa, Amar li Yosef Sheda. Rav Papa says that Yosef, the demon, spoke to him the following: Betray Katlinen. After 2, we might kill him. Ba'arba lo Katlinen. But after 4, one doesn't kill him. Ba'arba'a maskinan. After 4, he may cause him suffering, pain. Betray Bain b'shogeg, bain b'mezid. With 2, whether it's by accident or on purpose. Ba'arba'a b'mezid en, b'shogeg lo. Okay, and he's saying if it could be, if after 2 drinks, if it's by accident or on purpose, it's one thing. After 4 drinks, if one does it on purpose, yes, indeed, okay, he can anticipate pain, suffering, problems. If it was done accidentally, no. So the Gemara then asks, Ve'i ishtale V'ikre v'nafak mai takanate. Let's assume, says the Gemara, what happens if the person forgot, okay, how many drinks he had, and he wound up with an even number of drinks, and he went out and left, right? What's his remedy? What can he do to protect himself from any demons attacking him? This is what he should do, says the Gemara. Linkot zikva diade diamine. He should take the thumb of his left hand, biyada dismola, and put it in his right palm. Okay, all right, and then vizakfa dismola biyada diyamina, and the thumb of his left the thumb of his left hand in his right palm, and the thumb of his right hand in his left palm. Okay, v'nema hachi, and he should say the following when he does this. Okay? Atun va'ana hatlata. Okay, you, in other words, the two thumbs are like two people, and I make three. Okay, ve'ishami'ale. Okay, and if he hears this, in other words, the shade, Da'amar says then, Atun va'ana ha'arba'a. Okay, and if that doesn't work, he has to say you and they are four. Namely, say the following. Says the following, Atun va'ana ha'chamsha. He adds another one. Said you and I make five. Ve'ishami'ale. And if he hears it, the shade, and doesn't do anything, he's been successful. If not, da'amar, then he has to say, Atun va'ana hashita. You and I make six. Right? If that's the case, namele atun va'ana hashiva. You and I make seven. In other words, he keeps adding as if so that he's including himself, the demon, and additional numbers to make an odd number. So the Gemara tells us, Hava uvda, there was a certain incident, right? Ad mea vechad, that he got all the way up to 101. Okay? What happened? Upaka teda, and the demon exploded. Eventually, then, okay, without causing the person harm. Now, another story. Amar Amemar. So Amemar tells us as following. Amra li rishtanahi. Okay, I was told by the Nashim Kashfaniot. I was told the following, he said, by the chief, the head of women witches. The following. Haiman tepaga baho benashim kashfaniot nemahachi. That if a certain person were to wind up meeting witches, he should say the following. Okay? And this is what he says to them. Chare chamimi bedikula bezia lepumaychu. Nashe Charshia. Okay. Namely, he tells them hot excrement in torn baskets should go into your mouths, you witch ladies. Okay. Karach karchaichi, parach parchaichi. Namely, he continues them, your bald, the hair off the top of your heads that make you bald because you use those hairs in your witch's brews. Okay, and crumbs, bread crumbs that you also use in your witch's brews, right? Ivdud should be scattered, tavlunaichi, okay? And whatever spices you use in those witches' brews, okay, should be scattered. apparently the old idea of a witch with a cauldron and things like that may all the way date back down to here. Pircha zika lemurika. Okay. Charita denaktitu nashim kashfaniot. That a wind should come and it should scatter and blow the fresh saffron that you've taken, you witches. Okay, and therefore, continuing, what else does he say? Adechanani, if I have found favor, v'chananchi lo atiti lego. Okay, namely, I have found favor and I won't come inside. Hashta da atiti lego. And now if I've come inside, karchanani v'chananchi. Okay, that you should have your hair removed, and I will find favor. Okay? So in other words, this whole piece is said to these witches that one should not be able to put spells, craft on them. Now Gemara makes a next statement, which I think is rather interesting. B'ma'arava. Remember, we say that's in the west. Right? In Eretz Yisrael. Lo kapte azuge. They were not stringent about the issue of pairs. I understood from that in other words, that the sages of Eretz Yisrael were not as superstitious as those of Babylonia. Okay? Now, we won't go into more details, but you have to wonder, again, if the Persian and all that influence of Babylonia had something to do, the culture there had something to do as opposed to what was in Eretz Yisrael. Now, Rav Dimi Minahada, okay, Kapid Afilu Arushma de Chavita. Okay. Coming back now, Rav Dimi of Nahardea, remember a major community in the Babylonian Jewish area, was stringent, was concerned, Afilu Arushma de Chavita, even about the seal on a jug or a seal on a container. Okay. What happens? Hava uvda, there was a certain incident, upaka chavita, that the barrel exploded. Klala de milta. What do we see here, says the Gemara? A general principle about this thing, kol de kapid, whoever is stringent, in other words, whoever takes this speculation about witchcraft and shadim and all of that, whoever takes it seriously, kapte bahade, then the shadim and things like that are strict about him. Udelo kapid, and if one takes it lightly, okay, doesn't, lo kapte bahade, then they are not strict about him. Okay? So if somebody takes seriously all this business about witchcraft and the things like that, okay. Umihu lemichash mibai, but the Gemara adds, but nevertheless, one should still be concerned about it. Okay. The Gemara continues. Ki ata Rav Dimi. Rav Dimi, remember, used to commute back and forth. Amar, he said as follows. Shtei beitzim, 2 eggs. Ushtei agozim, or 2 nuts. Ushtei kishuim, or 2 cucumbers, or gourds. V'davar acher, halacha leMoshe miSinai. And one other thing were all passed down as a halacha leMoshe miSinai. Umistafeka laho l'Rabbanan. And there was a doubt, a concern on the part of the rabbis, Mahi nihu davar acher. What do we mean when he says and something else? V'gazur Rabbanan bekulhu zuge mishum davar acher. And the rabbis, therefore, in Bavel made this gzera regarding pairs because of this one other thing. V'hada amran, and that's why they said asara, 10, tnaya, 8, shita, 6, arba'a, 4, ein bahem mishum zuge. There is no need to be concerned about the issue of pairs with those sets of numbers. Lo amran ela le'inyan mezikin. And they did not say that except in regards to mazikin, to shadim, demons. Aval le'inyan kshafim. But in regards to the issue of witchcraft, afilu tuva nami chayshinan. Even other larger numbers of pairs, even more, one has to be concerned. So clearly there was greater concern about all these kinds of things in Bavel than Eretz Yisrael. Now, another story. Kiha, like this, Dahahu Gavra, the Girsha the Debetayu. For there was a certain man who divorced his wife. Azil, he went in Sabalachana. Okay, she went and married a storekeeper. Okay, what happened? The storekeeper happened to sell liquor. Okay, Kol Yoma Hava Azil v'Shate Chamra. Every day her ex-husband would come and buy liquor at that store, and he would drink. Right? Hava Ka'avda Le Kshafi. And when she would see him, she would try to do some sort of witchcraft on him. Velo kamahanya la bay, and it did not seem to benefit her. Mishum dahava miztaher benafshe bezuga. Why? Because generally he was careful about himself in terms of drinking pairs of drinks. Yom chada ishte tova. One day he drank more. V'lo hava yada kamashate. And he didn't know, okay, how much he had drunk. Right? Ad shitsar hava. Until he had had 16 drinks. Stealing, okay, v'izdaher benafshe. When he was lucid, okay, he was careful about himself. In other words, up to that point, he was careful. After his 16th drink, mikan ve'elech, lo havat tzil, v'lo izdaher benafshe. He was no longer lucid, right? And he wasn't careful about himself. What happened? Afikte bezuga, right? As a result, it caused him to leave after drinking an even number of drinks. Ki hava azil gas be hahutaya. Okay? When he went out of the store, a certain Arab met him, looked at him, and said, Amarle, Gavra Katilahu da Azil Hacha. There's a dead man walking here. Okay? Azil Chavke Ledikla, says the story. He went and he grabbed hold of a palm tree. Okay? What happened? Sivach Dikla Upakahu. The palm tree dried out and it exploded. Okay? The implication was a few possible explanations. I think the simplest would be that he grabbed hold of the palm tree, right? Trying to steady himself, something, a branch or a coconut, whoever it is, date palms, fell down off the tree, and as a result, struck him and he died. Okay. Amar Rav Avira. So now another story. Ka'arot v'kikarot ein bahem mishum zugot. In other words, plates of food or loaves of bread, there is no concern then about pairs. Klala de milta, a general rule then here, kol shegamru bidei adam, anything that is finished, okay, by the hands of man, ein bahem mishum zugot, then there is no concern about pairs. Gamru bidei shamayim, something, however, that is completed and finished on the part of heaven, b'mile mine demicha chayshinan. If we're talking certainly about aspects, things that one consumes, whether it's the drinks, chayshinan, then we have to be concerned. Okay. Another statement from the Gemara. Chanot ein bahem mishum zugot. Things that are purchased in a store. One doesn't, if one buys pairs of items in a store, one does not have to be concerned about pairs. Nimlach, okay, if one changes one's mind, ein bohem mishum zugot. Again, one doesn't have to be concerned about this speculation for pairs and witchcraft and things like that. Orach, okay, going on traveling, ein bo mishum zugot. A guest does not have to be concerned about pairs. Isha ein ba mishum zugot. Women generally do not have to be concerned about the speculation of witchcraft and superstition, okay, for pairs. Ve'isha chashuva chayshinan. But if she is an important woman, a woman of some status, again, then she does have to be concerned. Okay, again, following a previous principle, we saw that whether it's people that were of importance, the shadim, the demons, tended to be more quick to attack them. Okay, let's go on. Another story. Amar Rav Chinina Berei de Rabbi Yoshua. He says as follows. Okay, Ispargus. Right, that's not what we would call asparagus. Okay, Koren explained it that it was a situation where one took cabbage and they soaked the cabbage in wine, and then the resulting liquid was drunk in the morning for medicinal purposes. Mitztaref letova, ve'ein mitztaref l'ra'a. Okay, so that is for the best. So if one needs to take a pair of drinks, okay, that is beneficial and not detrimental. Amar Ravina Mishmei de Rava. So it says Ravina in the name of Rava, Zuge lechumra va'amre le zuge lekula. We can say that there are pairs when one is stringent, okay, that one needs to be careful. And there are other situations where we say that pairs that could be lenient, okay, and there's less concern. Amar Rav Yosef, Trei de Chamra, V'cha de Shikra, Lo Mitztaref. According to Rav Yosef, 2 drinks of wine and 1 of beer don't join. Trei de Shikra, V'cha de Chamra, Mitztaref. But 2 drinks of beer and 1 drink of wine do join. Okay, what does it mean they join? It means, do they still represent an even number, or do they represent an odd number? If they represent an odd number, one doesn't have to worry.
That's so annoying.
And what's our mnemonic device to remember? Zeh haklal. This is the ruling. Kol hamechubar lo min hachamur mimenu. All that one attaches to oneself of a more stringent nature, tameh. Okay? If you have, the Gemara is I'm going to explain it in more detail in just a second. Min hakal mimenu tahor. And that which is from the more lenient is tahor. Okay? The example we want to give is the following, to clarify. You have two pieces of cloth, okay? One piece is smaller than the other. One piece of cloth is tameh, becomes tameh. The other piece of cloth is tahor. If you join these pieces of cloth together, what do we say then is the result? Okay? Do we say in general that the larger piece determines the entire joint pieces? So therefore, if the larger piece is tameh, then the whole two pieces joined together are tameh. On the other hand, if the larger piece is tahor and the smaller piece is tameh, again we say for leniency that the whole thing becomes tahor. Okay, so that's his parallel to this situation here. Okay, and that's how he explains it, whether something joins or not. Okay, we now go to another statement. Excuse me. Amar Rav Nachman Amar Rav, in the name of Rav. Tre kame taka. Okay, remember we said, excuse me, that the sages at their time sort of lay reclined on a divan, and they had a small table that they ate from, like a, what do you call it? You know, a snack table. Okay, each one had their own table. Okay, so what happens if one started having a drink before the table with the food was put in front of them? Okay, so sometimes we might think, okay, does that drink combine with whatever number of drinks a person has during the course of their meal? So this is what the Gemara is dealing with. Tre kame taka, sorry, two drinks before the table is put in front of them, v'chad ataka, and one drink at the table, mitztarfe. They join together to come to a number of three. Chad mekame taka, one drink before the table, utre ataka, and two at the meal, at the table, I'm sorry, lo mitztarfe. They don't join. So again, the question of, did one drink in pairs, in even number or odd number? Matkif la Rav Masharshia. Rav Masharshia challenges this and says as follows, right? Atu anan letekune taka kabaina. Since when, he says, do we establish something that when you bring the table with the food for the person to eat, that's required and has implications? Letekune gavra baina. No, we need to establish this based on the person, not on the table. The gavra kam mitkan v'kai, and the person, therefore, is established, right, and exists as follows. And so Rav Masharshia continued, the kuli alma tre ataka v'chad lebatar taka lo mitztarfe. That really everybody is in agreement that two drinks, okay, when the table is present, and one drink after the table has been removed, don't join together. Ki hahi maaseh, as in the incident that occurred, de Rava bar Nachmani, as in the case with Rava bar Nachmani. And so the Gemara now, for us to finish up and just go over a little bit, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, says Rav Yehuda in the name of Shmuel, Kol hamazug mitztaref chutz min hamayim. Anything, he says, that is mixed, okay, joins with the exception of adding water. So remember, that would tell us they added water to the Pesach wine, which was like a syrup. As a result, those 4 cups certainly should not be considered pairs, resulting in a problem. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, he says, afilu mayim, even water. So, Amar Rav Papa, lo amran ela chamime lago karire ukrire lago chamime. Rav Papa says, they only said this if they were taking hot into cold, or cold going into hot. Aval chamimi lego chamimi, but hot going into hot. Ukrire lego krire, or cold going into cold. No. Okay. Well, that's not the case. That's not a problem. Okay. So our best example of putting cold into hot is, of course, if you're using sense on Shabbos, you fill your cup with the hot water first and then add the cold into the hot. Okay, we're familiar with that. But even there, okay, since you're generally going to only drink 1 cup, an odd number, it's not a problem. And we'll stop right there. Okay, we'll pick up tomorrow. All right, so everybody have a good day.
Thank you,
Stay
Rabbi.
well and take care, everybody.
Thank you, Rob. Have a good day.